Bonjour à tous, bienvenue dans l'émission Here's to Live, spécial hommage à l'actrice légendaire Cicely Tyson, avec la participation de Blair Underwood, Vanessa Williams, LaChanze, Tori Reid et Debbie Allen.
In a recent interview, Miss Tyson was asked how she wanted to be remembered. And Miss Tyson said, "I done my best, that's all." Talk to me about the spirit of Cicely Tyson.
Well, you know what she said, I've done my best, and that's all. That really says it all. Her spirit is one of just drive and one of uncompromising strength, a sense of knowing who she has always been as a strong Black woman out of New York, and everything that her family history dictated. That's who she was.
The lesson I will carry forward from Ms. Tyson is that you don't stop. You keep going. You don't let anything derail you from what's for you. You keep going. You end when you're ready to end. She was interviewed the day before she left us. You don't have to stop. There is no retirement. You keep going and reinventing yourself. This life we're given is not promised daily. And comparing your life to someone else's life just dims your own light. So it's important to keep going. That's what I have to say. She just taught me to just keep investing, keep going. Every idea, every vision, just keep striving for it. So she's my inspiration.
I admire people who are passionate about and committed to their purpose, either finding a purpose or being on it. And any time that I've ever seen Cicely Tyson or been in her presence, I've always had that feeling that she was there. She was in the moment. She was operating at a level of awareness about where she was, who she was talking to, what she was saying.
There is a spirit of Cicely Tyson that will live on and on and on as an inspiration, as a bullet kind of measure of where one can go and how long one can go and how one can continue to challenge themselves. I just remember as a little girl seeing her with her natural hair, and this was not something that was popular at all.
Yes.
But it was so striking, and it opened my eyes as a little girl as to what we can look like, what we should look like.
On the beginning of her book, there's a great picture. It's a family portrait, and she must be 4 or 5 years old, and you can still see the faces in there that we've come to know and love. But whatever that family history is, she brought all of that to fruition, and she walked in strength and power and purpose. Miss Tyson was never a shrinking wallflower. She was never that person who was apologetic for her presence. And she was strong, and sometimes, honestly, it was misunderstood. You can imagine a female, a woman coming up through the ranks, a powerful woman, a Black woman, a brilliant Black woman. So everything that comes with that in terms of maybe resistance from the industry, from society, to not give you the respect and due that you're owed. The beauty of this, people have called it her second phase, once she won the Tony Award for The Trip to Bountiful. And on all of the accolades that followed after that, people often refer to that as her second phase. It's probably second, third, or fourth phase with her, or act for her. But there was such a beauty in seeing the world envelop her and embrace her and honor her in the way in which she should have been while she was here to receive her flowers.
She's the kind of performer, the kind of actor, the kind of person that, if you're able, you will use as a meter to say, all right, if the rest of the room is at this level, we know she's up here. So you want to raise your your experience. You want to raise your acting. You want to raise your passion to be at her level, because it's a high altitude, and it's, you know, that whatever comes out of it, whether it's a conversation or a performance, that it's going to be top shelf. And that's what I've always liked about her. I've never seen her at anything other than the best of what she was doing. Striking moments of her performances etched in my mind forever.
The spirit of Cicely Tyson, if you're trying to describe it, it is a spirit that is so awake and so alive and still, you know, trying things, still, after so many generations, still very curious about where she can go as an artist.
Do you remember meeting Miss Tyson for the first time?
Yes, I do. I'll never forget it.
I don't remember meeting her, because I've luckily been in the business for so long and have had so many opportunities to meet amazing people that sometimes I forget when the first time I met celebrities. But I remember the first time I watched her on screen and Sounder. I was lying down on the foot of my parents' bed, and they had a color TV, and, you know, we're talking, of course, the 70s, and just watching her performance was magnetic and strong and defiant and sensitive and just powerful.
You know, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I remember the very first time. I know we were doing Heat Wave at the time. We were doing Heat Wave, and this was a movie on TNT back in the day, and I played her grandson.
I'll never forget it. She was a surprise guest at me and my late husband's engagement party in California. I have an aunt who is familiar with, she has a mutual friend with Miss Tyson, and she surprised me. I walked into the dining area and of my aunt's home, and Miss Tyson was sitting in the seat next. She had me seated and then Miss Tyson seated next to me. And it was the most incredible experience of my life then, because she's been my icon for years. She's been that person I've idolized since childhood, because she looked like me. You know what I'm saying? As a child, there was very few dark-complected Black women out there making moves on the level that Miss Tyson was. So I saw myself in her. And everything she did, my parents will tell you, I tried to recreate in our living room.
I love that.
So, yes, I remember that conversation. I remember her words of wisdom that afternoon, that early evening afternoon, late afternoon. And just her spirit was so generous and warm, and she just filled me with so much confidence. And knowing that I was in this industry, and at that time, I was still I had started my career, but I was doing theater primarily, and told her I was out in California working on some new TV stuff, and she was very inspiring and encouraging about that. So to answer your question, yes, I remember meeting Miss Tyson for the first time.
Talk about her effect on culture, specifically on Black culture.
Well, you know, she was the essence of culture. I mean, we all hope that when we walk through the veil, that whatever trail we've left behind has had some importance, had some, not necessarily importance, but it has had some effect on life.
As a Black woman from my generation, she was the pinnacle of an actress in our lifetime. She was the greatest of all time. Not only because of the span of her work for years, but the power and the dedication that she gave toward each character. And it shows off on screen and on stage. When you can move people through your art, that's kind of what you're meant to do as an artist. And she did it consistently. She also showed, as a Black female, which you can see now that she's passed, so many images of Black beauty with her hairstyle and what she wore and how she felt and how she was shot, and what she conveyed.
I think Cicely's impact was very strong at a time when we really needed it. I'm talking about the early semantics of the 70s, the late 60s, 70s. Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. Miriam Makeba, Nikki Giovanni, Cicely Tyson, Nina Simone. You have women who were so dynamic creatively, but visually made us understand our beauty, made us see it, because it wasn't being seen.
I saw myself in Miss Cicely Tyson. I saw that I could become something great in the entertainment industry without sacrificing or changing my looks or being insecure about my looks. I have very cotton, soft hair, and so the press and curl was never a thing for me. So I've always had to wear my hair naturally or with braids or wigs or whatever, and or what have you. And there's an image of Miss Tyson with short, natural hair. And when my tribute to her on Instagram was that picture, because that was one of the images of Cicely Tyson that let me know. And this was taken, I think, in the late 50s, early 60s, this image of her. And she was just barefaced, natural hair, looking up into the camera with that gorgeous smile. And I thought, I am in the world. I exist by looking at Miss Tyson, because if you turn on television, there are very few images like that of Black women. There are today. We see Lupita, we see Viola. Now we see, Danielle Graves. We see these rich, Deny. We see so many women now elevated for that Black beauty. But it started with Miss Tyson. So I'm grateful to her for that, and always will be.
You can look at her journey and find some kind of parallel as a Black woman.
Cicely was a big influence in women understanding their beauty and their natural beauty and, the beauty of Blackness.
It is amazing. You learn so much about her when you look back at her life, who she was with, who she loved, the kind of role she played. And it excites you about life. You go, yeah, she didn't mess around. She played it at the top level, and she was in the game.
What you were saying, the authenticity, the way that what she taught you, her example of her peers, and how what that showed you as an actress in a competitive field like acting and entertainment. What you learned, what did you learn watching her and her peers?
But what I learned is that it's all about staying in your lane and not comparing yourself to the women next to you or coming along with you, because that just takes your eye off the prize. And also, what's for you is for you. And it's going to come in the way it's supposed to come to you if you are focused on all of your own personal attributes and values and talent and everything that you bring to your work.
Except one time we were doing an interview together, Vanessa and I, on the Queen Latifah show. And we all did, Queen Latifah and Miss Tyson and I did Mama Floor's Family. In fact, Queen Latifah played my daughter in that when I was in my 60s. I think Dana said something like, about, well, you guys this. And she said, wait, oh, there are no guys. I'm a lady. She's a lady. I don't see any guys here. So she would often check you. But that's the only time she would kind of maybe try to teach you. But she led really by her example. And that's what I'll take with me more than anything. Her love of the younger generation. It wasn't about her. It wasn't all about her. She had her standards, and she expected those standards to be met. But it was really about, once you meet those, take care of me the way I deserve to be taken care of. she was always looking out for the younger generation, the kids. And, of course, she had has that school still in New Jersey. And it was all about these young kids in the next generation.
Ms. Tyson gave us the example that you can have an active career. You can also have your advocacy, but they don't define who you are. It's something that you do and something that you give as a part of what you want to give back. So I just liked so much about her. I can go on about Ms. Tyson. Those are some of the qualities about her that I admire.
In 3 words, tell me what made Cicely Tyson Cicely Tyson.
I think what made Cicely Tyson what she became was first her beginnings. I think the very difficult beginnings that she had forced her to make a decision that we all have to face, and that is, will I allow it to defeat me or will I defeat it? And she rose above her meager beginnings.
Courage.
Power.
Surviving, and survival in a business that's very difficult, that's certainly anti-woman at that time and even today, in terms of respect and given the opportunities to do. And yet, even in that, she survived. She survived and not only survived, but rose above the underlying confusion and energies that were trying to keep her from surviving.
Love.
Commitment.
Sweat.
Vulnerability.
She became a woman of power. She became someone who not only survived, but became. She was respected. She reached her plateau and continued to climb. And I think those are the 3 things that we all are faced with. How to rise above your meager beginnings, or whatever your beginning was, then to survive the things that come at you to keep you from going to the next level. And when you get to that level, you don't stop, you don't rest. You enrich, you build upon that. And that's what the legacy is all about. And that's what you leave behind.
Share your thoughts on why she is looked upon as such a matriarchal and regal figure in the culture, as well as amongst your peers in the entertainment industry.
It's a great question. Why is she looked upon as matriarchal and regal? Matriarchal because she's held it down for so long. Matriarchal because she's been there as long as so many of us can remember. But the way in which she showed up was as a queen bee.
Because in the middle of all that, she was very human. Very human. Very human. She was grand but earthy. She was very human. Very human. I mean, it's hard for me to explain it to you when I saw it up close. Things that troubled her. She was active in wanting to make life better. She made her own mistakes, I'm sure, that were her own.
It's kind of interesting. I don't know that I think of her, of course, queen in the sense of the honor and the respect that we would give her. Mm-hmm. But I always saw her more as a warrior. I always saw her as a ruler of her circumstance. I saw her power wasn't just being regal and sitting and being admired. Her power was in actively taking the moment, in actively imposing herself and her will on a scene, in a discussion. I never saw her as sort of as we see queens portrayed, sitting back and all regal in the chair, slightly lower than the king's chair.
She wasn't the stereotypical, archetypical prototype of a European beauty. You know, she wasn't light-skinned as a Black one, light-skinned and long hair. She was a chocolate brown skin like my mother, you know, the women in my life, my sisters, you know, that's another standard of beauty. And she brought that to the fore, and she did it with such regality because, as we discussed before, you know, she was a fashion model. You know, she could pull off, you know, the regality of it all, just how she presented herself. You know, she could and did on a daily basis pull off haute couture. I mean, high fashion. I mean, not just looking good. I'm talking high. You pull up any picture on Google and look at her. That's something. Anything she's wearing is something you'd see on a runway in Paris.
Yes.
I mean, high fashion, haute couture. So, you know, that's a part of the regality of that was the outward expression, but also who she was inside, the human being she was always one of giving and loving. And she was tough. I mean, there was that side, you know, people, you know, you didn't want to cross her. And she was intimidating to a lot of people. I mean, let's be real. That was a part of her, but it's also a part of her legacy. It's part of her legend.
I've always thought of her as a warrior. I see her more as Njinga, the warrior queen of what was then, I guess, Angola, who fought off the colonialists for years and was the first woman to, during that era, to proclaim an entire territory as free. And anybody who got to that territory was immediately given their freedom. That's power. And she was a queen, but not the kind that you see in some of the portrayals. She just didn't sit in a chair and wait for people to bring her flowers. She was out in the field. She carried a sword. And that's the way I see Cicely. She was out in the field. She carried a sword. She was fighting alongside any king.
One of the issues that I find that we have in the entertainment industry is there's a undercurrent of competitive energy, and it oftentimes can rob the friendships of authenticity. It robs the sisterhood of being able to just appreciate and lift each other up, because at the same time we're thinking, oh my God, I got to get a job, or are you going to get the job over me? And that exists. And no matter how much we fight it, it's still there. You know, I love so many of my working actor friends and I want to support them, but that energy sometimes finds its way to creep in. I never, ever, ever felt that energy in any way with Miss Tyson. And not that I would, but my point is she didn't come from that. She knew that she had a job to do with her work. She knew that she loved what she did, and that she had a lane that she was going down without worrying about the blinders on the side, without what was happening on either side of her. And I saw that as an example of how to go through this business, how to be in this industry, by not comparing yourself to so many others and staying focused on your goal and committed to your work and committed to the characters and never stopping. So it meant so much to me to see that generations of actors before me could exist in this industry in loving support of each other without having any need for that undercurrent of insecurity or comparing each other. She constantly encouraged me to keep going forward, to keep staying true to who I am, in all of my authenticity, loving it, accepting it, and paying it forward, which is what I've chosen to do.
Whenever I think of Cicely, whenever her face comes into my memory, I see her smiling. She had these great cheekbones, and her smile was always, it always lift me up. It always make me think, I want to go speak with her. Or, you see her, and it's the kind of people that when they enter a room, and if you have some space, you want to move towards that person. You want to say hello. You want to give them honor and respect. And a lot of people in the room, and you want to go out the other door. But when she entered a room, or if you saw her, you would make your way over to give your respect, to say hi, and that smile was always waiting for you.
That's it.
That's it.
Good.
That was perfect. that was perfect. Well, I can keep talking, but we're not 2 minutes.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
Wonderful.
Yeah, good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.